Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, reaching for your phone, and typing in google.com. And instead of the familiar colorful logo, you get a big fat error message. Google is gone, vanished. No search, no Gmail, no maps, no YouTube, nothing. Just silence. What happens next? Well, let's just say life without Google would get messy, fast. But don't worry, we're going to walk through it step by step, from the first minutes of panic to the long-term collapse of entire industries. And stick around until the end, because losing your search engine is nothing compared to what happens to the global economy. So, what if Google disappeared overnight? In the first few minutes, the world would just stutter. You'd try refreshing the page, shaking your Wi-Fi router and muttering, come on," at your phone. But no, Google is gone. Students would be the first to panic. Imagine classrooms full of kids frantically writing essays based only on their own brains. Terrifying. Meanwhile, kitchens everywhere would descend into chaos. Without Google, how do you know how long to boil an egg? And office workers? Forget it. The boss is yelling that the company has lost all its files. That faint thud you hear? That's your manager passing out on the carpet. But losing your recipes and emails is nothing compared to what happens to businesses. Within hours, the search vacuum would open. People would desperately turn to the alternatives. Bing, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo. But let's be honest, nobody really knows how to Bing. You type in funny cat videos, and it suggests dog grooming salons in Minnesota. Without Google search, entire generations would rediscover something ancient and mysterious. The library. Picture confused crowds walking into buildings full of books, whispering, "Is this like a giant offline internet?" Librarians would become rock stars, but the chaos wouldn't stop there, because Google isn't just a search engine. It's also the world's biggest advertising platform. Billions of dollars in Google ads vanish overnight. Companies can't reach their customers. That little sponsored box that pops up every time you search for a holiday deal or new shoes? Gone. Entire marketing departments would collapse. And then there's YouTube. 3.5 billion hours of videos watched every single month. Gone. That's billions of creators, from makeup artists to gamers, suddenly cut off. Imagine PewDiePie standing in front of a blank screen, just talking to himself. And the financial hit? Well, Alphabet, Google's parent company, is worth around $1.7 trillion. Wipe that off the map overnight and the stock market would wobble like a jelly in an earthquake. Remember when Facebook went offline for just 6 hours in 2021? They lost $65 billion in market value in a single day. Now, multiply that chaos by weeks, months, and a company 3 times the size. The economic shockwaves would be brutal. But that's nothing compared to the disasters waiting in your daily life. Imagine trying to drive somewhere without Google Maps. Delivery drivers circling endlessly, Uber drivers missing airports, tourists wandering through the wrong cities. Suddenly, your dad's old road atlas makes a comeback. Too bad it still thinks Czechoslovakia is a country. And what about your smart home? Google Nest, Google Assistant, even those little smart speakers. Without Google's servers, they're just overpriced paperweights. You walk into your kitchen and say, "Hey, Google, turn on the lights," and it just stares back at you like a very expensive brick. And Gmail. Oh, Gmail. With 1.8 billion users, it's the lifeline of modern communication. Without it, millions of businesses lose access to their messages, contracts, invoices, and deals. Whole companies could collapse in days. Imagine calling your boss and saying, "Sorry, we don't have an email system anymore." Should I just shout out the window? But wait, it gets worse. Because Google disappearing isn't just about today. The long-term impact would reshape the entire internet. Without Google search, the web would fracture. Some people move to Microsoft, some to Apple, some to obscure search engines you've never heard of. The once unified internet becomes a patchwork of different worlds. In rich countries, people would adapt. But in poorer regions, Google is the internet. In Africa, Asia, and South America, millions rely on cheap Android phones preloaded with Google services. Without them, digital access shrinks overnight. Even education takes a hit. Google Scholar vanishes, cutting off researchers from academic papers. Universities scramble to find new systems. Students sit staring at blank screens, wondering how to reference anything. But maybe, just maybe, this disaster sparks opportunity. New companies rise to fill the void. We might see decentralized search engines or AI-powered replacements. The internet becomes less monopolized. In the ashes of Google, a more competitive, innovative digital world could emerge. Of course, humans are annoyingly adaptable. We'd eventually get used to life without Google. After all, people survived before 1998. They looked up things in encyclopedias, asked neighbors for directions, and yes, even remembered phone numbers. Librarians everywhere would smirk as crowds shuffle back into their dusty buildings. "Told you we'd be back," they'd say, adjusting their glasses, and new tech giants would rise. Maybe Bing becomes cool. Maybe Apple launches a slick new search empire. Or maybe some unknown startup in a garage takes Google's place, just like Google once did to Yahoo. But in the meantime, total chaos. So, what if Google disappeared overnight? Well, the world would stumble into confusion. Emails lost, businesses broken, maps useless. Billions wiped off the stock market. Humanity forced to actually talk to each other again. Terrifying. And sure, we'd eventually find a way forward, but for those first days, it would feel like the digital apocalypse. But if you think losing Google is bad, just imagine if the entire internet went down overnight. That's a story for another time.